These brown butter cookies are chewy and packed to the brim with chocolate chips and chunks that it feels almost sinful to eat them. In a previous video, I showed you how to make a basic chocolate chip cookie. If you liked that, then you have to try these brown butter cookies. It's got a few more steps, but it takes your cookie game to another level. We start by browning our butter. This adds a deep nuttiness to our cookies that make them feel super indulgent. Heat your butter in a pan on a medium heat, stirring occasionally until it gets to a golden color. Once the butter has browned, measure it again to ensure that you have 1 full cup. You may need to add a couple of knobs of butter to bring it back up to level, as some of the liquid may have evaporated in the browning process. Set this aside to cool and measure out the rest of your ingredients. For the dry ingredients, we do a mix of flour, corn flour, baking powder, bicarb, along with some salt. The salt is so important to balance out the sweetness of these cookies. We are also using a mix of brown and white sugar to get a nice balance of that chewiness and the crispy edges. Eggs, and way more chocolate than you think is necessary. In my basic chocolate chip cookie video, I used a mix of milk and dark chocolate chips. In this one, I'm using a mix of milk chocolate and dark chocolate cut into rough chunks, along with some semi-sweet chocolate chips as well. This adds so much additional texture and bite to your cookies. Another little trick, especially if you live in a hot, humid climate like I do, is to chop up your chocolate chips and pop it in the freezer for about 10 minutes before adding it to your cookie dough. Making the actual dough is super easy. Just mix together your cooled brown butter along with the brown and white sugar and vanilla, adding the eggs a little at a time until the sugar is dissolved. Make sure to give it a quick scrape down in between to ensure that there aren't any lumps of sugar that's left at the bottom of your mixing bowl. You can easily do this with a hand whisk if you don't have a stand mixer at home. Gently fold in your dry ingredients and make sure not to overmix it. And then add your chocolate. It may look like you have way too much chocolate, but don't worry, it will be perfect. Scoop out your dough balls onto a lined tray, making sure that the chocolate is evenly distributed amongst them. Let it chill in the fridge for at least 3 hours, preferably overnight. Pop your chilled cookie dough onto a lined baking tray and bake at 180 for about 6 minutes before turning the tray and baking again for another 6 to 8 minutes until the edges look crunchy but the centers are still gooey. Take it out of the oven and let it sit for about 10 minutes so that it sets a little. The best way to enjoy these are by dipping them in a glass of cold milk. You can freeze the rest of your cookie dough balls in an airtight container so that you can bake cookies at home whenever you want. And that's my brown butter chocolate chip cookie recipe. Now, if you feel like this is a bit too much work, check out my video for the basic chocolate chip cookies. That's so simple that you can have awesome homemade cookies even if you have no baking experience at all. Once you try that, come back and try this.